Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on another Monday, another stream of Orbit, where we're going to take a look at what's new in GraphQL this week, or maybe who knows when it was from, and we just haven't seen it yet because there's a lot of technology in the world, and it's hard to keep track of everything. I have with me Trevor Blades. Thank you for joining.
Good morning.
And yeah, so we got a couple interesting things. I do want to start with this though. If you have discovered anything interesting in GraphQL recently, let us know. Drop it in the chat. But without further ado, we're going to dive in because today both Trevor and I are on a bit of a time crunch. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit is coming up, and it's got both of us pretty much heads down. So yeah, but we still found some interesting things that I thought everyone else might want to take a look at. So we said, hey, let's do it. All right, so here we go. Let's dive in. So the first one is, let me see if this will work properly because last time it wasn't. Okay. Boom. So the first one, oh yeah. Well, I guess I should open it here as well. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, is Nader Dabit has released a new book, Full Stack Serverless. So this covers a lot of GraphQL stuff, which is why that we are including it. As you can see here, cloud computing with React, GraphQL, and AWS. So yeah, if you are interested in that stack and what it would look like to build a full stack serverless app, that seems like it might be the book you want to read, right?
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's got a nice little dory fish on the front.
It does have a dory fish.
That looks at it.
Yeah, then you could be like, "Where's my book? Where's my book?" All right, dad
Maybe
jokes.
a just keep swimming kind of metaphor.
Ah, interesting. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I like it.
that kind of mentality pertains to web development pretty well. I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, or maybe more like a salmon trying to swim upriver. that that
Feels like
feels
that
like
sometimes,
web
doesn't
development sometimes.
it? Yeah, it really do be like that.
It do, but sometimes it feels like you're going with the current. There's
Mhm.
good times and bad times, and sometimes it's just like, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. All just depends on what you're doing, right? I always find the closer I get to the bleeding edge, the more I find myself fighting upstream. Big
Oh man.
surprise. Big surprise.
Yeah, dude, I can totally relate to that. Like, yeah, it's so funny, and the types of problems you encounter
Yeah.
when you're using like bleeding edge technology are like a different category of problem a
Yes.
lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like the yeah, I've been recently like building a project using Chakra 1.0, which is currently like in release candidate status,
Uh huh.
which is awesome and is really really close. But over the last few beta versions, like every time that I'd go from like beta 5 to beta 6, there'd be a ton of changes. No surprise because there's no
Yeah.
like we're experimenting here.
It's
We're
beta.
like
Yeah.
it's currently in development, and that's I mean that is the train I chose to ride. So I'm not complaining or anything, but it is just funny. Like
It's
I
different.
upgrade my npm dependencies and I'm like, oh crap, like what do I have to fix now? Okay,
Yeah.
go in here, blah, read some source code, like try to figure out what's going on. Um, yeah, it's a different kind of experience, but it is really fun, and I like to get to use that new stuff.
Yeah, like when they're hitting, they're hitting. Like Chakra makes web development so much faster when you're building UIs, right? Than building out your own like base design system, we'll say.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't do that
yeah.
again.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, yeah, you get that, but then like if you want to like, push that and see what else is going to make your life easier, some of that pain you're going to experience. And to me, the other thing that makes it more difficult is just that it's not as well known. No one else is, if only a few people have hit these issues because you're one of the first people using it. So there's no like, it's harder to go to Google and like just get an answer, right? Like if you had an
Yeah,
issue with like, a hook, a React hook, chances are you'll find some content related to that error. Someone else has been where you are because they've been out for a while. thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of developers have kicked the tires, right? But like when you're on the bleeding edge, it's like you hit errors, and it's just like, that John Travolta meme. It's like where's all the
Yes.
answers? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, moving on. Ooh, so this one I'm including because I personally am super excited about it. And normally I talk about upcoming streams at the end, but I want to talk about this one, which is one, it's also fun to say and funny. So like, I'll bring up the tweet, but Twitch is coming on. So some developers from Twitch. So Twitch is coming onto the Apollo stream to talk about using Apollo at Twitch, which is pretty wild, but it's also being hosted on Twitch. So Twitch is coming on to Twitch, their own thing. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just like a lot of back and forth between Apollo and Twitch. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But this is more like a panel type stream. I think this would be a really fun one to tune into. They're going to be talking about how they're using Apollo client at Twitch and some interesting things they're doing with caching, some other stuff. We're going to have 3 team members from Twitch joining us, but as well as Ben Newman from Apollo, who works on the Apollo client package, right? The I guess tool, library, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so they're all going to come together, talk about what they're doing, like, Apollo Client 3 and all this other stuff. So it's going to be a really cool stream, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to tune into that if you weren't planning to already. I don't think this could be talked about enough. And again, I'm just so into this whole Twitch on Apollo on Twitch on Apollo thing. It's pretty funny. All right. Yeah, so that's
like
that.
A Twitch Apollo club sandwich.
It really is. That's going to be right here on this channel. So that'll be right here on / Apollo GraphQL. And yeah, so that's going to be here. So if you're here, you're already in the correct place. Maybe just stay here until tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Just hang out, leave the tab open.
Yeah, take no chances.
Yeah, take no chances. Cool. All right, so the next thing that we got coming up, which I thought was really cool, it doesn't have any associated content other than a picture, but this is a GraphQL server running in Cloudflare. And so because like we have serverless GraphQL, and GraphQL servers are like becoming, big to run them, like you see it in Netlify or Lambda functions or some other places. Yeah, I never thought like, why can't you use Cloudflare workers? So in this example, they're just using like the GraphQL, I forget which one it is. Like there's like a base GraphQL server thing, but Apollo server works here too. The serverless version, so you could also run that. But pretty interesting if you're already using Cloudflare workers. Yeah, drop your GraphQL in there as well.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, right?
I've never actually used Cloudflare myself.
Me either. I need to. Yeah.
CloudFront is AWS. Is Cloudflare Google, or is it its own thing?
It's its own company. So Cloudflare is a CDN.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But it's its own thing. They have tons of stuff, and I guess under their solutions now they have workers. I don't really know how this all works. Like again, I am not familiar with Cloudflare, other than I know that it is a CDN that has like a lot of other features, kind of like a Fastly type setup or some other stuff like that. Yeah. I guess in that they're both CDNs. Like I don't know how their pricing or product lines compare. I just know that both of them allow you to do programmatic CDN stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's all I got for you. But I think it's enough to get started if you're interested. And maybe I will. So now that we know we can do GraphQL on Cloudflare, maybe I'll try and get someone on stream to show us how to do that.
There you go. Maybe get Jane Wong herself.
Maybe. maybe I
That would
will.
be
So actually,
that
let me just go ahead and do boop, add to bookmarks, so that I can come back to this later and do that exact thing.
that would be really, really
Yeah, it'd be a great episode. Yeah, so I'll try and do that. I'll see if I can't get that working. Wow, I love how that stuff just happens. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk, we're doing good. We're only like 15 minutes. I was planning to go faster, but now I've gone too fast. I think we only have 2 items left.
What have you done?
But that's cool. We still have 2 other things to go over. But yeah, so this next one is about how PayPal has started using GraphQL for checkout, which I thought was interesting. So the article itself is by Mark Stewart. So let me copy this link in case anybody wants to go give Mark a follow. Boop. And let's go take a look. So essentially, if we just take a look at, we're not going to go through like the whole article, but we'll kind of do like an overview. So essentially it goes into like how they introduced GraphQL at PayPal, why they're using it at checkout, the API journey, like as far as like starting from 4 years ago when they first built it, which is pretty cool. So this gives you like a lot of times people will talk about like, oh, we're using GraphQL. I like to see these stories where people have had REST APIs for a long time, and then they decided to move to GraphQL, because I feel like that's a position a lot of people find themselves in, and it becomes unclear about what to do or why not stick with REST and stuff. So here we go. And this is always the story that I found myself in, and the story that other people are in. So they end up building these things on top of REST, right? And this is what I also did too, like fancy ways to include the related entities, to filter out what you didn't want in the response so that it was easier to deal with. And like at the end of the day, what you're doing there, bulk operations, you're just recreating GraphQL. All of that stuff comes by default with GraphQL, right? And so it's like, at that point, it's just like, you start thinking about hours wasted. Like, I can't tell you how many hours technically I've wasted. Sure, a lot of this was actually before GraphQL existed, so can't really count that. But for me, anything past the release of GraphQL, where I found myself building this API gateway or BFF or whatever you want to call it, where I'm doing this kind of like smart REST, or even if you go so far as to follow like the, what is it called again? Oh, why am I, Hadios. Like REST method, right? Where you include the links to the entities so it's easier to fetch. You still have like those multiple round trips, right? Like, and it's a lot of work to orchestrate that stuff, generating links and stuff like that. So
not only that, but like then consuming that on the client. I remember having to write these complex. This is also when we were using Redux.
Yeah.
You need a place to store that data. Okay, so whether you use Redux or MobX or you have your own custom state solution, then like how you consume that data, that you make a request to a REST endpoint, you get back some data and some other links that you're supposed to follow, and you're the person who has to write that code that says, when I get back the response, check to see if the links object exists. If it does, then check to see what the first result is, or then make those requests, put that data somewhere. It gets really, really complex, and there's nothing unless you're using like some kind of like API generator like Swagger. There's nothing that's guaranteeing that these responses or these results are going to be in the format that you expect.
Yep.
It's you're basically putting your faith in your REST endpoints to give back the type of data shape that your client expects in order for it to not crash. So it's a pain to say the least when you get to that scale.
Yep. Yeah, as a matter of fact, touching on that, literally later on in the post, they say when they took a closer look, they found out that UI developers were spending less than a third of the time actually building UI. The rest of the time was spent figuring out where and how to fetch data, getting that data into the right things, orchestrating the calls. Yeah,
That's like the classic REST to GraphQL story right there.
exactly. Yeah, and so that's it. So I mean, there's a lot more, of course, to this article. They go into great detail about it, but yeah, I would say check it out. It seems like a good read, especially if you're new to GraphQL or on the fence about GraphQL. It could be a good thing to help, maybe push you over. Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, these accounts are really can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Seeing what were the key the key turning points for a company as big as PayPal with a lot riding on it, a lot at stake. Um, like they are maybe the, if not one of the foremost payment processor type companies in the world. For them to make an architectural change like this,
Yep.
they're going to have good reasons, and so it can be really helpful for a new developer or new or old, really, to get a better sense for the pros and cons of adopting new technology when you look at a big company with a lot at stake. See how they make a decision like that.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, exactly. And so that is that. But it is important, and as you mentioned, to see PayPal doing it is kind of like, that's like next level. As you mentioned, like the amount of transactions that API must receive each day is astronomical. Yeah.
And they're not, they're not selling like in-game currency for like a mobile app or something. They're like, well, I mean, maybe they're powering those things. Maybe I my analogy could be better, but like these guys are doing really critical work. If their API messes up, there's millions of dollars at stake.
Yeah, it's wild. So the last thing, I can actually just type the URL because I've typed it so many times that I just know it by heart now, and that is Summit. So Summit Week is here, folks. The first week of GraphQL Summit is upon us. It is this Thursday and Friday. I have dropped the link to the chat. You really need to register. We've set up an amazing community within Discord where it's going to be really cool to chat and talk with both a lot of the main companies around GraphQL as well as people involved with GraphQL. There's going to be lots of opportunities to speak with people who are like, super experienced or known in particular topics and areas of GraphQL. And so this is like why I just want to like preface this, like this isn't, it's like about all, like there's going to be talks about GraphQL and Rust. And as a matter of fact, why don't we just look at what's going to be there instead of me just like going off the handle. So I mean, we got mobile and GraphQL. I happen to know this is going to be, I believe, iOS focused. Panel on Federation with like some of the top people in the whole GraphQL community. So it's going to be pretty wild. Right, and so this is day 1, and then we have day 2. So again, it spans 2 weeks, Thursday and Friday of this week and next week. And then we've got
let's go through the talks and like
what's the better way, through speakers or go through?
No, I think this is good.
Yeah.
Was the iOS talk the only talk?
Yeah,
on
let's
the
back
first day?
it up. Yeah, there was the panel. So, but we should talk about those too. So yeah, this is the only talk. This is the on Monday, but you're not going to want to miss this panel either, and you're also not going to want to miss topic rooms, but we'll get there. But yeah, it's really about iOS and GraphQL. from Camilla, who's an engineer at Gusto. So I'm pretty excited about this one.
Also, the keynote
Yeah, we don't want to miss the
is gonna
keynote. Yeah.
is gonna be great.
Yeah.
We got three of our teammates presenting at the keynote, covering the a few different topics of the new Apollo Studio, the new Apollo client, and also the subject of federation, which, as Kurt mentioned, we're going to get to learn a lot more about in the panel later that day.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was like just breezing through too fast. Yeah, and so yeah, we've got the Federation panel, which is it's gonna be the main like I guess you would say like the people who are like really taking Federation and pushing it. They've invested in it heavily. They're gonna be talking about what they're doing, the future of Federation. All kinds of interesting things. So definitely worth checking out. And we'll get back to topic rooms. I feel like let's go through the talks and stuff, and then we'll talk about that.
Great. Yeah. Also, the Federation panel is hosted by Jeff Hampton. Is our teammate as well. If you missed his talk last summit, he gave a great talk about Federation, and so
it might even be worth watching.
You can go back and check that out for a primer if you missed it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this panel, learning GraphQL. I feel like at events, this is a topic that often gets overlooked, and I'm glad to have an entire panel dedicated to it. So yeah, this is going to be the Learning GraphQL panel. Eve Porcello is going to moderate that. If you are unsure of who Eve Porcello is, you should give her a quick Google. She's done a lot in the GraphQL community, like a lot, like literally wrote the book on learning GraphQL, co-wrote it, and she also wrote Learning React, co-wrote that with Alex Banks, and together they also have Moon Highway, where they do React and GraphQL training and basically building like apps. So yeah, and then we've got Monica Powell, which is going to be awesome, Kate Efimova, Carolyn Stransky, and Prince Wilson, and they're all going to come on and give their perspectives. They're all at slightly different points in their GraphQL journey, from like very new to pretty experienced with it. So it should be really interesting to get those perspectives. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. And this next talk has me really intrigued: an approach to automated caching for public and private GraphQL APIs. Cool. Yeah, that sounds cool. Automated caching, that's like tricky, right? Like, what is that saying? Like, the hardest things are naming things, or what is it? Like, cache invalidation, off by one errors, or something like that. The three hardest problems in programming are cache invalidation, off by one errors. That's it, because it's off by one, so you only give two answers.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. Either way. Regardless, I'm really curious to see what this means. So anyway, Tamai Gopal from Gopal is the co-founder of Hasura. So if you're not familiar, or Hasura, I always like add like an H that doesn't exist there. It's just Hasura, but I say Hashura, like I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like the Tesla versus Tesla.
Yeah.
Like saying it with a Z versus an S.
Yeah.
I never know what it is.
I think
depends who you ask.
Yeah. Either way, it's Hasura, and if you're unsure, check them out. They do a lot of cool stuff. And then this one I'm super excited about: Profit Without Oppression. So Kim Creighton, she is like professional of basically like anti-racist economics and like the role that racism plays in economics and anti-racism. So this is going to be a very interesting talk. I cannot wait to see what she has in store. I went to her training, which is actually still available. Anyone can just pay $30 and go through the training. It was really cool, like an intro to anti-racism training. It was very cool. I was pretty pumped about it. I learned a lot. So yeah, it's going to be really good. So that's on Friday, and then we've got Thursday of next week. So that's where we're at now, Thursday of next week. So yeah, we've got the future of custom scalers. This is another topic that I'm pretty interested at. So that's Andreas Merrick and from Atlassian. And so if you're not sure what a scalar is, it's like a type. So like when you do like, name, colon, string, like that string thing, that's a scalar. That's a type. And you can create custom ones that do different things. And so I'm pretty interested to see what becomes of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we were talking about this. Was it last week or maybe on? I forget. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting talk. I've only scratched the surface of using like scalars other than the default ones. And so I want to know what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. This next talk, there's so many good talks. So this next one, Project Constellation: The Future of Federation, by Ashi Krishnan, who actually works at Apollo. You've got to listen to this talk. Like, Project Constellation is mind-blowing. It's so cool. I cannot wait. I'm not going to go too much into it because, I don't even really know. Ashi, this is like, but yeah, it's going to be amazing. Check it out. You will not want to miss that. And then we got GraphQL in production panel. And as you can see, this is pretty packed with a lot of people who have been using GraphQL in production for a long time. Mark Andre wrote a book about it. Literally wrote the book about. We love to say that here. Yeah, wrote the book about it. We've got Matt, so the CTO of Apollo. He's going to be there and moderating the whole panel. So, it's going to be pretty wild. Shruti Kapoor. What's up, Shruti? She's actually going to be coming on the stream next month as well. And
we're going to be making jokes.
Yeah, we're going to be making jokes. Yeah, she's got this great repository called Dev Jokes. It just has like a bunch of jokes, like developer-focused jokes. And we're going to make a GraphQL API out of it. Ayo. Should be fun. And so then we're going to have the break and then more topic rooms. So let's go to the last day. Ooh, that's right. Here we go. So we've got the Jamstack panel. What? If you're familiar with Jamstack, then you might also be familiar with how much GraphQL is associated with the Jamstack, right? Like, there are a lot of people doing things with serverless functions and REST, but I feel like GraphQL is becoming very ingrained into the Jamstack. People really like GraphQL, and they like having static front ends that are like dynamic at runtime, and GraphQL tends to be good at that. Or if you look at the world of Gatsby, where like all of your data is sourced into your static site through GraphQL, there's just kind of like this closeness between those two ecosystems. So it's worth knowing about this and what people are doing. And actually, we're seeing a lot of big companies, like who was it? Who now is powering their e-commerce platform with a Jamstack app and GraphQL backend? Ooh. It's a really big one, like a really big e-commerce store. It's going to make me so angry. But long story short is that this is becoming a very common pattern for building apps. Static front ends that do the dynamic stuff after page load, and they're talking to GraphQL APIs. And that seems to be the thing. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. So we've got, wow. Oh my gosh. So Chris Biscardi is going to be moderating. We've got, Aisha Blake from, Gatsby, Jason Lengstorff from Netlify, CEO Ford, who's an instructor and learner advocate at Egghead.io, and Kyle Boss, a software engineer at Tinder.
That's a stacked panel.
That is a really stacked. All the panels are stacked. All the talks are stacked. Yeah. This is why you should just go register if you haven't already. Like, what's the holdup? Everyone here who's probably listening has probably registered. Anyway. All right. This is an interesting one. This next talk. Defer and stream directives in GraphQL. So, I'm not even 100% sure what this is. Well, I do understand that streaming is like where instead of sending all of the data at once, like you're streaming data over HTTP. I get that. So it's like a streamed thing. But I guess like this is like about almost like lazy loading, right? And defer is like, well, that's something that exists already. And that's when you're saying you want to defer loading of that data, right?
Something like that. I've actually I have a confession. I've never used the defer directive myself, but the way I understand it is yeah, that you don't block on that data loading for the rest of your response to come back.
Right.
So you have a complex GraphQL query, and there might be like an expensive field within there. You can slap a deferred directive on that,
Yep.
and the rest of your data will come back as soon as it's ready, and then the rest then that expensive operation will take place in the background, and it'll show up whenever it's ready. You're deferring the loading of that until a later time. That's how I understand it.
That's pretty accurate.
Okay. In any case, I'd like to strengthen my understanding of this in some way if I can. So
this is the talk for you, it seems.
You know, I'm gonna be paying attention to this one.
Yeah. Then we've got 200 OK error handling in GraphQL by Sasha Solomon, who is a senior software engineer at Twitter, where I spend about 50% of my day. So we've got and then how to auth secure GraphQL API with confidence by Mandy Wise, who again has written the book. She has also a book on building apps with React and GraphQL as well. I'm really looking forward to all of these talks. And I guess now we've gone through the talks, we should talk about what we keep seeing in these topic rooms. So topic rooms are really cool because, like, unlike the talks and stuff, it's just people from the community who have had ideas about topics or things that we've seen be interesting in GraphQL, and we thought that we should have topic rooms for people to just come in and chit chat about these topics, right? Like, these remind me of like topic tables at a conference, you know, and that's the kind of vibe I get from them, which is really cool. And look at that. Speaking of, one of the first ones, GraphQL for the Jamstack. So like talking about how this is becoming more and more prevalent of an architecture pattern. We should call it something like Gamstack, or I don't know. I'll get there. But anyway, GraphQL, Java, and Kotlin, right? GraphQL doesn't just happen in JavaScript. Surprise for any for any JS developers out there. Yeah, GraphQL is nothing more than a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a schema. Spec. Thank you. Is a spec and can be implemented in any language. Any language. If you're a Perl developer, we encourage you to develop a Perl GraphQL server, please. All languages are welcome. Yeah. And then we're going to be also talking about the future of GraphQL. This is one I'm particularly interested in because, like, I feel like we're starting to see GraphQL in a lot of places outside of building APIs, and that makes me really excited. There's something about the DSL that makes it very easy for people to onboard to and take advantage of, and I think seeing it in more places is great. And one example of that, so it's not just like theoretical, dgraph is a database solution that uses GraphQL as the query language for the database. It does expose an API, but like it's actually the queries are what's getting data, and mutations are updating data in that database. Like, it's not like a layer. It's not like GraphQL on top of Postgres. Like, the actual database solution, I believe, is called Badger, and like there is a more complex query language that comes with it as well, but the main query language for that database is GraphQL itself. And then we take a look at something like Gatsby that uses the content mesh from the guild, and both of those are doing the same thing. They're building content meshes, and then you query those with GraphQL, right? So it's like, it's starting to happen, and I'm just curious where else it's going to happen and what else it's going to be used for, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
I was just looking at dgraph on my other monitor, and
Nice.
yeah, I'm gonna bring my focus back to the stream now. But it's something that I wanna check out more after this.
Yeah,
Like,
I would. I recommend it. They have a hosted solution now, so it's like very easy to just
Awesome.
do. Yeah, basically, yeah. Not to derail, but essentially you would create the database, target it with Apollo client because you have like access, and then boom, that's it. Now you're just, and the same queries that you're sending are the queries, and it's a relational. It's a graph database, not a relational database. So the graph of your queries, like the way you structure and define things in your schema as like an entity, and the relationships are the exact relationships of the graph database itself.
That's really cool.
It is cool. It does a lot of cool stuff. Check it out. I'll save it from there. We also did streams, so check it out on Twitch, and they'll be on YouTube after Summit because, dear Lord, I just can't. I don't have the time. But I'm gonna upload everything right after Summit. But yeah, the stream should still be on Twitch, so check it out. And then we got GraphQL for iOS clients, GraphQL at the edge. So talking about actually Cloudflare workers and stuff like that, right? Like that's GraphQL at the edge. That's a good example of that. Lambda, stuff like that. Caching in GraphQL, that's important. Testing GraphQL APIs, securing GraphQL APIs, GraphQL for web clients, GraphQL API best practices, and federation. And y'all, that's just the first day. It's like day one. So some of the topic rooms are more than one day. So some of them span 2 days, right? Like most of them are like the first week, and then the other ones are the second week. Is that correct? Isn't it pretty much like that?
There's a mix.
Yeah, there's a mix.
There's a good mix.
There's a mix. Most of those were the same, but let's go look into the second week. So we got caching, schema design best practices, live streaming on Twitch. Hey. Which, yeah, like when you're talking about building communities, we're seeing a huge push of people live streaming, people live streaming on Twitch as a way to build community, talk with the community, show off what's going on, learn together. It's really cool. I love it.
Yeah, you bet. And I'm going to be hosting that topic room. That's next week. And it's going to be both days.
Yeah.
So definitely come by and hang out, and we'll talk about doing this kind of thing right here.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so we've got some more stuff. GraphQL microservices, React state management with GraphQL. You got a lot of options there these days, so that's going to be really cool. GraphQL type system, getting more into that. Rust and GraphQL with Ashley Williams. So she does a lot of awesome stuff with Rust. So I can't wait to see the conversations that happen there. More testing, because you can never have enough of that. Serverless GraphQL. Very important these days as well. And of course, you cannot forget GraphQL for Android, right? So it's got all your bases covered. Doesn't matter if you're a mobile developer, doesn't matter if you're iOS or Android, doesn't matter if you're developing for the web or if you're developing the backends themselves. Like, there are rooms here for you of interest. And this is where a lot of the conversation is going to be happening. So definitely come and check that out. And look at that.
And I'll just reiterate one more time. If you jumped in the stream halfway through, we were talking about these topic rooms. These topic rooms are for registered attendees only. So here's how it works. All of these topic rooms take place in Discord. The way to get your Discord link is by registering for the event. You go to summit.graphql.com, or you click the link that Kurt just linked in the chat right there, and you register. It's completely free. Once you register, you get an email with a link to the Discord.
Yep.
Or when the conference starts, you'll get a link to the Discord, and that is your ticket into the topic rooms. So don't forget to do that. And looking forward to seeing, or not seeing, but hearing a whole bunch of people for these great topic rooms.
Yeah, I can't wait to chat with y'all about so many interesting things. I love talking about GraphQL. In case you can't tell, we even made a show specifically about just talking about GraphQL. So yeah, come chat with us about GraphQL, because like we're two people who are very excited about this, and every single person who's going to be in these rooms and in that Discord is also very excited about it. So let's go have exciting conversations. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. That's it. That was the last item that I have. We didn't get anything in the chat, and actually we got to run soon because we've got a super busy day. I normally talk about upcoming streams, but they've all been ticking across the bottom of the screen. So I think you're probably pretty caught up there. If not, I will drop a link to our events calendar real quick, because and it also has GraphQL Summit on it, so you'll be able to keep track of all of your events related to us in one place. Just go to apollo.dev/events calendar. Yeah, so you've got that. I've already talked about Twitch coming on tomorrow. That's the biggest stream we have coming up until next week. So yeah, that's it. That wraps it up for us. I got nothing else. You got any last burning desires or questions or anything like that?
No questions. Just a reminder for everybody to register for GraphQL Summit, and don't forget to drink some water today.
Drink all the water.
Stay hydrated. It's hot out there, so
yes, it is.
Take a sip right now if you have some water handy.
That's it.
I know I will.
I got mine, but it's empty. I got to go fill it up.
Oh boy, you got to get on.
I know, for real. I ran out right at the beginning too. This whole time I've been quite parched. All right, but yeah, with that, we're going to get going, everyone. So thank you again for joining us. I think we'll skip on the raid today simply for time's sake. So we're gonna call it here. Thanks for joining us. As always, we appreciate you hanging out, and we will see you next week where we learn even more about what's going on in GraphQL. If we don't see you at Summit first. Oh, bye everyone.
Have a great day.